in Mago Reddit. Today's story is...
My wife chose her toxic friends over our marriage. 3 years later, she came crying back when she heard about my success and that I would be a father with another woman. I am 44 years old, and I am finalizing my divorce from Lisa, my wife of 39 years, to whom I was married for 6 years. The main reason was that she allowed her friends to constantly disrespect me. Not only did she let them make fun of me, but she seemed to enjoy it. For me, this is a completely valid reason to end a marriage, but everyone around me insists that I am being impulsive and that I am taking things too far over something insignificant. My self-esteem is fundamental to me, so I want to share my story and get unbiased opinions from people who don't know us. Lisa had a close-knit group of friends from university. From the moment I met them, I felt that they didn't like me. I tried not to make a big deal of it because, after all, why should I care what my wife's friends thought? They weren't my friends. However, from our first interaction, I sensed an obvious coldness. They tried to be friendly, but it was clear that it was completely false. They exchanged glances and created uncomfortable silences that spoke for themselves. Initially, I thought they just needed time to accept me, especially as I am an introvert who takes time to feel comfortable with strangers. But those subtle signals of rejection never changed over time. When I made a funny comment, they would look at each other with mocking smiles. They shared inside jokes that, as I later discovered, were at my expense, and Lisa never bothered to explain them to me. Sometimes the jokes were quite direct. I remember when one of them asked Lisa, "How did you end up with him?" And my wife just laughed and replied, "You get used to it with time," as if I were some kind of inconvenience she had learned to live with. When I asked her what she meant by that, they quickly changed the subject. The worst part is that Lisa never defended me, not once. When I confronted her later, she played it down, saying they were just harmless jokes. Over time, I stopped attending events where I knew her friends would be. However, sometimes they would come to our house, and I couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. Although I maintained basic courtesy, their presence affected me deeply. On several occasions, I asked Lisa why her friends were so distant with me. She usually ignored my questions, but once she finally confessed the truth, her friends thought she deserved better, that I was too old for her, and that, being so attractive and young, she could have found someone more suitable. She also mentioned that they were not impressed by my financial situation. She said to me, and I quote, "My friends see me as an intelligent and confident woman, and they expected me to marry someone more financially successful." Her words made me question why she had married me in the first place, or whether she shared those opinions. She assured me that she had married for love, and that she was happy with me. This was really the only significant problem in our marriage. If we eliminated her friends from the equation, we had a wonderful life together, both busy with our jobs, helping out with the housework at weekends, enjoying quiet Sundays, or going out together. We didn't have any major arguments, except those related to her friends. When she was with them, Lisa completely changed. Normally, she was kind and considerate, but in their company, she became a totally different person, someone I didn't recognize. All her friends had that negative influence. Maybe she was just trying to fit in with the group. The turning point came 5 months ago. Her laptop broke down and she used mine temporarily. She logged into WhatsApp on my computer but forgot to close her account. Days later, I opened the app and realized it was his session. I was about to close it when 600 messages started syncing. There was no way to stop the synchronization. My original intention was to log out, but I saw my name mentioned several times in their group chat. I saw fragments of messages and curiosity got the better of me. I opened the conversation. What I discovered was worse than I could have imagined. Not only did I tolerate the hurtful comments about me, but I actively participated in them. There was one particularly cruel friend, recently married to a wealthy man in the music industry, who constantly bragged about his money, his travels, and his gifts. Her husband was also attractive. She would frequently send photos to the group, tagging Lisa with questions like, "What did he get you for your birthday?" Or "Where's he taking you on vacation?" Those messages were unpleasant on their own, but Lisa's responses were what really broke me. One of her friends wrote, "Sometimes I swear I don't understand what you were thinking when you decided to marry him." Lisa replied, "I wonder that too." Then another commented, "He's boring, he doesn't even buy you flowers." And she replied with a laughing emoji. That was her usual reaction to the comments. She either laughed or agreed with them. Her friends constantly encouraged her to speak ill of me, accounting for approximately 40% of their conversations. One even suggested that I find someone more interesting. Lisa's response, You're absolutely right. Disdainful comments or looks in person were one thing, but this was much worse. It seemed that the digital distance gave them freedom to be especially cruel, and my wife was fully participating. I exported the entire conversation to my email and saved it. I felt completely naive to think that we had a solid marriage, when it was clear that even my wife didn't believe it. I continued to check, but didn't find anything else relevant, not even in her conversations with her mother. When she got home, we confronted the issue. When I mentioned it, she initially froze and then panicked, asking how I had found out. I explained that I had forgotten to log out of my computer. She tried to deflect the conversation, arguing that I had invaded her privacy. It's a typical manipulation tactic, trying to make you the problem when they don't know how to justify themselves. I replied, "You didn't log out, and honestly, I'm glad you didn't. At least now I know the truth about what you really think of me." She defended herself by saying that she personally had not said anything offensive about me. I showed her concrete evidence to the contrary. The situation escalated quickly. I was deeply upset, and she continued to defend herself, insisting that her friends were just being funny and that they were joking, that they were bad-mouthing everyone, not just me. I replied, "I don't care what they say or do. You, as my wife, should have defended me, but instead you enjoyed their insults at my expense." She continued to try to justify her friends, but I was direct. It was either them or me. I told her she should eliminate them from her life, right then and there, by calling them on the phone in front of me, or our marriage would end. This would be proof that I valued our marriage more than those friendships. She hesitated visibly, which was revealing. She replied, "Come on, you know they're just joking and you're exaggerating." I said, "Fine, you've made your decision, now I'll make mine. I'm not going to continue investing time in this relationship when I'm just an object of ridicule for you." She panicked. "Are you really going to end our marriage over a few simple messages? Over something so insignificant?" I replied, "It's not just about messages or little things. It's about self-respect. As my wife, you should protect my dignity, and you have completely failed to do that." Even at that critical moment, I gave her the opportunity to remedy the situation. She just had to get away from those toxic people who made her constantly belittle me. But she didn't understand. She apologized on behalf of her friends and promised to control them in the future. I told her, "That's not enough. I don't want apologies. I want you to eliminate them from your life right now. If you can't do it, then I'm leaving." After many heated arguments, she finally stated firmly that she could not cut off her friends. She argued that they had been in her life before me and that she could not lose them for me. I took my jacket and said, "Fine, then this marriage is over. End of discussion." She tried to stop me, but I left the house. In the days that followed, I told her that we should start living separately, that one of us had to move out. Initially, she resisted, but when she realized that my decision was firm, she became enraged and said, "Think about it carefully. I am out of your reach. You may not be so lucky twice in your life." Her comment made me laugh because she sounded exactly like her friends, confirming that divorce was the best decision. She smiled arrogantly and added, "Once I agree to the divorce, I won't change my mind, even if you come begging." I laughed too and replied, "Sounds perfect to me." She packed her things and left. We are now in the period of legal separation before finalizing the divorce. We have to wait 6 months and they are dragging on forever. I am counting the days until it is officially over. We have divided our assets equally and put the house up for sale. Fortunately, we have no children, so there are no custody disputes. Despite everything, the situation is still complicated, and to make matters worse, people close to me call me impulsive and overly sensitive. They minimize what happened because it wasn't their wives who allowed this kind of behavior. I didn't file for divorce at the first sign of trouble, but when I discovered things I found unacceptable. Even then, I gave him a chance, so to call me impulsive is completely unfair. If I blame myself for anything, it's for taking so long to make this decision. If I had given that ultimatum at the beginning, I can't imagine what people would think of me, considering that now they call me impulsive. But I want to know, am I really the impulsive one in this situation? Update 1. Knowing that a group of strangers consider that divorce was the best option for me is enormously reassuring. I wasn't going to change my mind, but now, if anyone in my circle calls me impulsive, I'll show them these comments. Some have been quite forceful, so it will be interesting for them to read them. The divorce is finally complete. However, the waiting period was really traumatic. Lisa acted as if I were losing the greatest treasure in the world, as if I were letting the best opportunity of my life slip away. All the while, she was subtly trying to manipulate me using my parents and friends. You see, I am a reserved person who does not publicly share the details of my life. Part of this is due to my introverted nature, as I mentioned before. It is much easier for me to express myself when I can do so anonymously. I didn't share all the details of our divorce with my social circle, only the general aspects, but she did so exhaustively. Of course, her version considerably distorted reality, presenting herself as a prize that I should be grateful to have in my life. She described me as a paranoid husband who had spied on her, had found some harmless jokes between her and her friends, and had reacted disproportionately. My father even traveled specifically to talk to me and try to talk some sense into me. He sat down with me and explained that women tend to rely on their close circle of friends as a support network, a space to let off steam, and that I shouldn't feel insecure about that. He told me that I was acting impulsively and sacrificing my marriage for what he considered to be simple, unimportant conversations. I let him finish his speech and, without saying a word, I turned on my computer and showed him the messages. As soon as he started reading them, he said, "These are not just inconsequential conversations." After a long pause, he added, "Now I completely understand." He didn't apologize directly, but the way he patted me on the shoulder and said, "Do what you have to do, son," made me realize that my silence about the details had unfairly made me the villain. I finally understood why everyone called me impulsive. The version Lisa had shared was far from the truth. I want to clarify that I did share specific details about those conversations with some people, but I gave a summarized version to most. Even so, there are people who, with all the information available, still consider them to be simple, unimportant jokes. I cannot publicly share those chats because they are private conversations, something I would not wish to do either, given that I value keeping my personal life private. Fortunately, I managed to sell the house at a great price. We divided the assets equally. On the financial side, at least, there were no disagreements, and it was a relatively straightforward process. I was pleased with her attitude in that respect, because all I wanted was to get it over and done with as quickly as possible. She moved in with one of her friends and immediately began to build up the image of an exciting and free life on social media. Her posts were full of photos and videos of parties, trips, and experiences. She knew exactly what she was trying to achieve. She wanted me to see it, to feel that I had lost something irreplaceable, to feel jealous. But instead of worrying about it, I simply blocked her on all platforms and moved on with my life. I redirected all my energy towards my own personal growth. I joined a gym and lost weight. My health became a priority now that I had more time for myself. I also started a side project that I had wanted to develop for years. With no toxic influences limiting me, I felt more focused and productive than ever. My routine was set. I worked during the day, trained at the gym, and went home to develop my venture. It was immensely satisfying, but Lisa couldn't bear to see me doing so well without her, so she started trying to get back into my life. In fact, Lisa and I were in the middle of an in vitro fertilization process before it all collapsed. Under the circumstances, I withdrew from the process, making it clear that I no longer consented to having a child with her. It seemed like a simple and reasonable decision, right? Not for her. This affected her deeply, and she made a surprising request. She wanted me to allow her to have one of my children despite our separation. I said no. Any reasonable person would understand, but she felt she had an absolute right. She began to beg me, first with text messages consisting of long paragraphs and emotional appeals. Then came the incessant phone calls. I hadn't blocked her number initially, thinking we would need to communicate about divorce matters, but with everything finalized, I finally did. When she discovered that her messages weren't getting through and her calls were being blocked, she showed up uninvited at my door. She pleaded with me, "Please, this is all I've ever wanted. I don't even need you to be involved. Just let me have this baby. I will raise it completely alone. You will have no responsibility." I replied, "I am relieved that we will not have children together. The separation would have been much more complicated. This way is much simpler, and you want to complicate it by having one of my children. Go find a better husband, as you said you would, and have all the children you want. But leave me alone. I don't want to have any kind of relationship with you." She continued to insist, but I reiterated, "It's over. I don't want any ties with you. Not now or in the future." She clung to my arms, crying desperately. "I know we didn't work as a couple, but this is completely different. It's my dream. I've always wanted to be a mother. Please don't take this opportunity away from me." But I wasn't taking anything away from her. She could have a child with any other man. So I told her that my dream was to never have to see her again, but she was making it extremely difficult. She cried even harder, making all kinds of promises. I'll sign any document. No maintenance, no strings attached. You won't even have to see him ever. I just need this from you." I shook my head. "My decision is final. I've already informed the clinic to discard my sample, and I won't be providing new ones. There is nothing more to discuss." When I informed her that the samples had been destroyed, she finally understood that she had been completely defeated. There was no way I would agree to provide new samples. According to her and her friends, I was a loser. She didn't understand why she would want a child of mine. Update 2. 2 years have passed since my last update, and life has continued to be extraordinary and transformative. During this time, I have worked intensively on my business, and the results have been exceptional. It has grown so much that I have been able to give up my previous job to dedicate myself completely to it. This is the most significant achievement I can share, because for me, it is fundamental to have the freedom to work on something that I really enjoy. It's not that I hated my previous job, but developing something completely my own is incomparable. For the last 6 months, I have been dedicating myself exclusively to my business, and I feel enormously satisfied. I don't want to sound like those motivational images on social media, but really positive things happen when you eliminate toxic people from your life. Her friends looked at me with disdain. She thought I wasn't up to her. Look at where we are now. She's been watching my progress. I know for a fact that she checks my profile occasionally because it has been confirmed to me. She can't do it from her original account because it's blocked, but she uses alternative profiles. I even know which accounts they are, but I don't mind. More followers are always welcome. I don't post often, but when I do, it's about my business achievements or travels, never irrelevant content. Recently, I had a conversation with a mutual friend who confessed that Lisa mentions me much more often than she would like to admit. She thought I was the prize in our relationship, not the other way around, that I was lucky to have her. Now she silently follows my every move. During the separation period, and even in the months after the divorce, she continued to post about her apparently exciting social life. But the reality is that no one has a perfect life, although she should have understood that. She allowed her friends to convince her that she would find something better, and now she can see where that advice has led her. She enjoyed that lifestyle for a while, but eventually the loneliness began to affect her. All her friends went their own ways and stopped spending time together. I know this because she has told me that she feels extremely lonely. Even the friend who married the music industry character found that all was not perfect. Her husband cheated on her with a younger woman. Ironically, she was one of those who insisted that Lisa could find someone younger than me, and now she herself has been replaced by a younger version. People enjoy putting others down, but they don't realize that their words can come back to haunt them. The friend she moved in with after the divorce also got engaged and asked Lisa to find another place. The best part? A mutual friend told Lisa that I am in a new relationship, and indeed, I am. I have found love again. It is someone I met through my business, an intelligent, independent, and kind woman with her own ambitions and determination. We met in a professional context, and our relationship is a far cry from the toxicity that characterized my previous marriage. She is nothing like Lisa, and that's precisely the best part. She doesn't constantly compare me to what I could achieve. She values me and sees me as the best thing she could have, exactly as I see her. Living with the thought that there will always be something better out there is completely insane. When Lisa found out about my new relationship, she completely lost control. She turned up unannounced at my workplace, asking for a few minutes to talk. She began by apologizing sincerely. It was the first time she had ever uttered that word, and she really seemed to mean it. She admitted that it had been a big mistake to prioritize her friends over me. She revealed the whole situation, how eventually her friends had concentrated on their own lives. 2 of them had children and had lost touch, while another had moved away because of her husband's job. Their close-knit group had simply disintegrated. She confessed that this was the real reason why she had been so desperate to have children, because her friends had them, and she feared feeling left out. She acknowledged that she had always wanted to fit in with that group. They were the most popular friends from her university days, and Lisa longed to be part of that exclusive circle. She did everything she could to be accepted, even to the point of sacrificing our relationship. Then she asked me, "Now that I've cut ties with all my friends, is there any chance of reconciliation?" Her question made me laugh because she was about 2 years late. Besides, she hadn't cut ties with her friends voluntarily. They had marginalized her. And when she had no one else left, she came looking for me, as if I were her last desperate option. I replied, "What about my girlfriend? You know about her, don't you?" She feigned surprise momentarily and then whispered so that no one could hear, You've only known her a few months. It shouldn't be difficult, to end that relationship." I replied, "Actually, it would be, and do you know why? Because I sincerely love her. She is an extraordinary woman, something I unfortunately cannot say about you." She said that I was just like all the men she had recently dated. None of them treated her with the respect she deserved or represented a good option for a serious relationship. It is difficult to face aging and the loss of respect, but she had my complete respect, and she lost it through her own actions. She even lost the opportunity to be a mother through our initial process. I know this sounds harsh, because I also lost my chance to be a father to her when it was all over, but at least I have the peace of mind of knowing it wasn't my fault. I remain convinced that the divorce was the best thing that could have happened to me. I would never have met my current partner if it hadn't been for the negative influence of her friends. After a little more conversation, I asked her to leave, because I wasn't going to abandon my current life for her under any circumstances. There is absolutely no reason to do so. It would be like winning the lottery and immediately donating all the money just to make life more complicated. No, it's definitely not going to happen. I no longer care how she feels, although I did see her deeply depressed that day. The time when I worried about her well-being is long gone. Update 3. I am getting married again, but not because I have to. I understand that the circumstances may seem rushed, and that getting married when your partner is pregnant could be interpreted as the only motivation. But it's quite the opposite. I really want to marry her. Maybe it wasn't in my plans initially. Maybe it wasn't my priority after my first marriage left such a mark on me. But even before I knew we would be parents, I already knew I wanted to build a life with her. So this is the natural step for us. Anyway, we were already living together and leading a practically married life. I see this wedding as a celebration of this new family beginning. Because that's what we are now, a complete family. I had always wanted to have a wife, 1 or 2 children, although we're taking it one step at a time, and for my wife not to have toxic friendships. My fiancé meets all these requirements and has other qualities that I didn't even know I would value so much. So I feel extremely lucky. For those who asked, my fiancé has perfectly normal friends, the kind who don't interfere in other people's lives just to ruin them and then disappear, because that's exactly what they did to my ex. They filled her head with ideas, but when they got husbands and started their own families, they abandoned her completely. The best friends in the world, clearly. I know that my ex is still single, or at least without an official relationship, so I can say that she destroyed her life for absolutely nothing. Because that's what her friends represented, nothing of value. But I'm a grateful person, because without the negative influence of those friends, and without my ex, I would probably now be trapped in a marriage I detested. Because if it hadn't been her friends, it would have been something else. It's as if we were never meant to work as a couple. Addition. My son was born before the ceremony, so organizing the wedding while taking care of a newborn was a logistical challenge. Fortunately, we received invaluable help from our families, and since my wife couldn't drink alcohol during this period anyway, it didn't alter our original plans. My little son didn't wear a formal suit. I doubt they make one that tiny for such small babies.